Hey everyone. In this episode, we sit down and we talk with Jimmy Ellis, a 20-year performance marketing veteran. We dive deep in this episode to discover really the tactics that are working today, which ones aren't, and what marketers tend to miss. You'll learn which critical aspects of a website's landing page give you the biggest conversion improvement, and how roles and of trust and communication and third-party credibility are really both big opportunities and yet really easy to implement. So let's get into it. I excited to just sort of jump in real quick. These AMAs are really just a way for us to be able to help. This is not a sales tactic. We are not trying to promote anything. It's just us trying to help people that are writing in. We get a lot of these requests. The idea here is, we will once a week or so go through and identify some landing pages from people who've submitted them. So thank you for doing that, those of you who have. And we're going to go through and do these teardowns, make recommendations. The objective here with these AMAs, like always, is really just for you to be able to take some tactical, practical tips, strategy that you can then employ for your own campaigns. Preferably, if you were able to, like, if you got the advice, say on a Tuesday, right, and you're listening to this on a Tuesday, and you were able to have this implemented by a Friday, right, before you go into your weekend. So that's really what we're trying to do. This is not about like high, you know, like we're not about slide decks, right? We're not out, trying to give you strategies that you can't employ. What we're trying to do is give you something that you can actually use that will help you today and help you succeed. So excited about jumping into those. So Chuck, let's go ahead and dive into the first one.
I'm gonna stop us before we dig in and talk about before you start building your landing pages, because we need to set the table a little bit. If you're asking for, like, we are going to be doing this on the fly. We have not reviewed these pages. We have one up. This is the first time that I've seen it. What we don't know is just as important as what we see on the page. So let me talk about that for a little bit, because we need to talk about the customer journey, and we need to talk about where people are at before you build your landing page and what channels of traffic that you're using. So before we dig into this particular page, most likely, if you're doing digital marketing and you're building landing pages, you need to have dedicated pages for all your major sources of traffic, because what works best for Google or Google AdWords or organic search or Facebook or Instagram they may not all perform the same. What works on Facebook may not work with Google. What works with YouTube traffic might not work with Instagram traffic. They all usually need, if you're spending significant money and getting decent traffic from those platforms and those channels, they need their own page or pages. Once you have that established, like you have a landing page for those channels, your landing pages need to be directly tied to the ads. And ideally, if you have the metrics tied to where the customer's at in their customer journey. So have they ever visited before? Have they gone to your site and opted in? Have they, like, I'm looking at this page. Have they already done the free investment guides? Have they already done the schedule, the discovery series? Have they done anything with you in the past? So retargeting visitors, like first time visitors versus repeat visitors, is going to be different because they're already going to know something about your company. So on the page we're looking at right now, what we don't know is, what was the ad that they clicked on if they came from Facebook? What was the ad that they clicked on if they came from Google AdWords? What's the organic search page that they came from? And what were they expecting to see? So that whole process I just described is really part of continuity, which means you're connecting what the customer saw and what they expected, what they clicked on, to whatever they see on the landing page, and delivering on what I would call that promise. You showed me an ad saying, I'm going to make one up here. And I know I'm just going on and on because I kind of live for, like, figuring this stuff out. And I've just done it so much, that without those pieces, you can't nail it. But let me talk about, for example, if someone saw an ad saying, we will help you do your financial planning and achieve your financial goals for you and your family with our free, and check out our free investment guide. Like, that was the ad. Then this landing page would lead with headlines and everything about how to achieve those goals with the free investment guide. That would be the one call to action. But when I'm looking at this page, the first thing that I see is plan now, live well. What I'd want to do is really dig into, what do you mean by plan now, live well? Like, the first thing I want to see is not like what you guys do and who you are. It's the outcome that your customer would like to see. So if they would like to be able to plan their finances so they can retire early and spend more time with their kids, I want a headline that says, learn how to smart plan for your financial future so you can spend more time with your family and your kids and retire early. Like, that would be the type of headline I'm looking for. It's not about you, it's about the outcome that your customer wants to get by working with you. So think about that, because you have some copy in here that could be reworked and reused in different ways. So my thing is, like, headlines are number one every single time. Doesn't matter what else you're doing. If you don't have a good headline that means something to the visitor that you're trying to attract, it almost doesn't matter what else you have on the page. Um, the second thing that I would look for on this particular page that we're looking at is a very clear primary call to action. You can have multiple calls to action. I'm not against multiple calls to action, but there needs to be like one really significant one. So this one, I got schedule a discovery in a bottom white one that has no contrast on the page. Yeah, it's in the main body, so it's probably going to get a decent amount of clicks, but you got these yellow buttons bottom right. You got a top right yellow button. You got contact information on the right-hand side next to the primary body copy. You have stay up to date. Like, you have a lot of things on here, including like this stuff you're talking about, areas of practice, cash flow management, retirement. So the other thing you have to think about when you're designing these pages, what is the one thing you want them to do, and make that the primary goal of your page? The additional things usually aren't going to contribute to that. Like, showing them, like trying to sell them completely on this one page is not going to happen, but you could get them to take one, like the next step. Like, what's the one thing I can get them to do? Is it to get the free guide? Is it to schedule a discovery session? The Zoom meeting thing is like, I don't even know. Like, I've never seen someone have is that a live Zoom meeting? I've never seen that before. So that's an interesting option. Let's find out. Wow, it goes directly to a live Zoom link. So we're not going to do that today. So that's I unleash on this page. What else?
No,
What else we got, guys?
so I think to your point, right? So there are a lot of things going on immediately. So it's very distracting. I don't really know exactly, like I have to think through what I should be doing next once I land on here. Right? Immediately, I want to see above the fold a clear call to action that is related and relevant to the ad that I clicked on, and also is focused on just that call to action, right? As opposed to having a distraction to click on a Zoom meeting, having location, an additional call to action button at the bottom right, which is to schedule a discovery session, right? Is that the same thing as a Zoom meeting? And so I think each call to action should have their own section, right? So I'm not distracted by anything else on the page. And you can think of it as a sales pitch, right? You're not going to talk about 8 different things at once, right? You're going to stick to sort of this, I don't know, timeline, right? And have some continuity in place.
No, I think you're nailing this, Sunil. I mean, when you think about even the concept of in the fold, like it used to be a really like best practice things to do, and then it kind of got phased out. What I mean by that is it wasn't so important to have a call to action in the fold of the page. That's really kind of coming back, and the reason it's coming back is because mobile responsive pages.
Yep.
When you're designed, like we're looking at this on a desktop screen, on a mobile responsive screen, your call to action is not even going to be close to in the pane unless you have a mobile template that is showing it that way. So we're looking at it this way, but it's really important because on mobile phones, yes, people will scroll, but that information has to be hitting emotional trigger points for them to stay engaged. So if you don't have amazing content, you usually will want to try to get something in the fold on mobile responsive, which would probably push a good call to action up on this particular page. Now, those are nuances. Like, to me, I'm still focused on, like, if you don't get the core offer, a headline, a good intro, and keep the focus of the page to like one main thing and maybe a possibility of a second or a third point, I think you're the majority of your results are going to be in those things.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to your original point, right? Of having multiple landing pages, and multiple ads that relate to those landing pages directly. And so even off of this one landing page, it seems like we can build three, right? One for the discovery
Absolutely.
call, one for a Zoom meeting. What would take place during that Zoom meeting and why would I want to join that? Right. And also the investment guide. That seems like a pretty important call to action. Like what's included in that investment guide and why would it be valuable to me? I'd want to learn more about that.
Yeah. I mean, let's keep talking about this page a little bit. So what Sunil said, like, let's break this down. You have multiple things you're trying to get someone to do: the live Zoom call, the scheduled discovery session, the schedule, and the investment guides. You could turn this into 3 pages. One has an ad to schedule a discovery session. That ad talks about some value proposition point in your ad, goes to the landing page with that as the main call to action. There are no other call to actions. Second page is the free investment guide. Your ad talks about the free investment guides and the value they'll get by getting them. The landing page is only about free investment guides. The third version is we have discovery session, a live Zoom meeting. So ad would talk about talk to us live now, and you could actually schedule, like if you had Facebook ads, you could actually schedule the ads only to run during business hours, Monday through Friday, and you literally could schedule those to fire at 8 a.m. and say, get on a live discovery session with us now. Um, you know, one click Zoom link, whatever, and the whole page is about getting on a live call and getting them like instant
Yeah.
contact that can help them. So like that's 3 versions. If you were to have those 3 and you tested those 3 on Facebook, on Google, on Instagram, on YouTube, whatever channels of traffic that you're getting, I guarantee you different pages will have different performance on those channels. There will not be one page that wins across the board.
And
Like that's all the different channel testing works.
yep. And you'll be able to see what call to action is actually worth investing in and how much, right? In
Right.
each single channel, which I think is really important too, because then you can start prioritizing.
Absolutely. I mean, if you find out like the free investment guides get you better opt-in and the quality of that lead is significantly better, you might be like, forget all these other options. I just need to focus all my efforts on the free investment guides because it's the clear winner.
Yep.
In other instances, you might find something like, hey, you know what? On Instagram, for example, man, these live Zoom meetings, like that's what people want. They're on the phone, they're on the move, they just want to do something quick and easy. And they just like, let me just talk to someone. I don't want to go through your web page. I don't want to scroll through all your stuff. Just like get me on the phone with somebody. You got anything else, Eric?
Well, I think it's interesting, right? I mean, yeah, so this is a business to consumer, site that allows you to be able to get financial investment. So, in theory, I'm thinking about things like CPL and CAC, right? As you guys are both talking, and one of the things that I think about in the back of my mind when I hear that is, what is a Heron Wealth, customer worth, and what am I willing to invest, on a CPL basis, and what am I willing to invest downstream when I actually close a customer, and what is my overall, so my all in CAC. When I'm running an ad, let's say I'm doing PPC, for example, right? So I'm running paid search to this particular channel or this particular page. I'm probably running it here, and I'm probably running it. I don't know. Click on the free investment guide real quick. There, top right. Yeah. So there's some checklists which are really cool, right? So click on one of the checklists, and I'm assuming it's gated.
Yep.
Scroll down.
There it is.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so they're all specific, right, around particular like pain points that a customer is going to, or a prospect is going to have, right? So this one is about premarital preparedness. I'm sure the other guides are around other types of topics, right? And they're gating the content. So you're running you're running ads to each one of these, right? You're segmenting them out. You're running different campaigns to each one of these, right?
Mhm.
So this one's hey, I've sort of got my, you know, this is a mid-career, right? So I've got my career started, I've hit a couple of milestones. I'm sort of getting over the hump, and I'm trying to figure out now, I'm out of school debt, et cetera, right? And I'm putting money away for retirement downstream. But anyway, so I'm looking at these and I'm saying, what's my overall downstream CAC? I don't care, to be honest. Like I just sort of think about my own campaigns. I don't care what my cost per lead is up front. I don't. What I care about is, what's the quality of those leads downstream, after, I've had somebody call them, talk to them, qualify them, right? And then ultimately bring them on as a client. And I also think about, like what is the value of a client to me, over the life of that client. And so these are interesting business models to me because I think, a lot of times we have such a short-sighted notice of um, what the lead is worth, right? We spend so much time trying to get a cost per lead down to, $10 or $20 or whatever. I couldn't care less. That's to Jimmy's point where, you're looking at quality as much as you are, quantity and CPL, right? If I can get people to drive to these checklists and they qualify, or they're more qualified because I've segmented them out and I know what their needs are, I know what their pain points are, and I can follow up, with them very quickly, and I can talk about mid-career financial preparedness. That is a much better lead, than somebody who's just going to the homepage, right, and fills out a request a demo, even. So I'm looking at sort of downstream. If I can convert, an higher rate downstream, that's going to be something that I'm gonna want to do. So I'm taking a little bit of look different, and that of course informs what Sunil, you and Jimmy were just saying. It's like this informs your strategy, right? You start with that. You start with how many clients do I need, right? What makes up a good client? Who is in my ICP or, my ideal customer profile? And I'm building content around that and gated content, lead capture content around that. And then that, informs everything else I'm doing all the way up to the ad I create.
Yep. And the
Absolutely.
audience that you're targeting, right? As opposed to taking this, broad stroke approach, you're going to want to build an audience of, folks that are around 50 years old, right? Or people that are just getting married, new parents, etc. This is going to
Right.
improve that entire funnel's conversion rate, as well as the quality score for those leads that you're driving.
I mean, if you're doing like, I'm looking at this process and these checklists, and I'm thinking about, for example, if I was doing retargeting using something where I had a segment built from people that viewed or downloaded these checklists, when I retarget them, I'm going to retarget then the strategy session. I'm not going to retarget them, come back to these pages or even that main landing page we saw. It would be to like a dedicated schedule your strategy session link, because I already know they got a checklist. So I know like in this particular niche, like building trust is number one.
Yeah.
No one's to give you their money,
Yeah.
let's say 6 figures plus, if they don't trust you. And it doesn't matter what your guide says, what your whatever says. So think about that. Like, what would be the thing that we could do to build their trust the fastest and the easiest? I know this niche is referral based, heavily referral based. So trying to get leads this way is very, very tough. And you got to work really hard to get those leads, and then to, like I said, once again, qualify them, build their trust, and get them going. So I do like the guides. I do like the ability to have a strategy session or talk to someone, but it's most likely they're not going to be ready until after they see something that says, man, I need to talk to this guy because I really feel like I can relate to them, trust them with my money.
Yeah.
They won't even give you the first step if
Yeah.
you don't accept trust. If
Yeah.
you don't accept trust.
Yeah, these are not one call closes. They're not. And because, it's funny. I hear sales teams all the time, I did a LinkedIn post about this not too long ago where I was talking about how, salespeople, are you sort of know you're onto something when a sales rep is calling you up as a marketer, right? Or as an owner or whoever's running, your campaigns, if you're the person running your campaigns, they start calling you up, right? And asking you how you're getting, those leads. That's when you sort of hit a vein of gold, right? And so when we talk about things like, strategy and how that informs, something like this. It feels like to me there's like a nurturing, like a nurturing campaign that's part of this. And there probably is, right? I mean, it looks like a good site, and, I'm sure that's probably happening with the marketing folks that are running this particular marketing program. But, like these are not one call closes, right? These are people who are coming in, they're interested, they are, hitting certain, like, again, they're coming in with a certain pain point. They're coming in with a certain type of problem that they are trying to solve. They have Googled or they've clicked on or found you through an ad, and then you're capturing them, right? And you're capturing them through these various lead capture forms. And then based on those lead capture forms, you are bringing them into a nurture profile. And based on that nurture profile, you're coming back and hitting them with, a follow-up email sequence, like a drip campaign, et cetera. And, you like what I see, and Jimmy, Sunil, I imagine, like, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Tell me what you think. But, really the best campaigns that I have seen from advertisers are where they are truly multi-channel, right? So many people sort of like employ like a drip campaign because they know that's a best practice. But when really what they need to be doing in addition to that, right, in that nurturing process with a clear call to action, is coming alongside of that with, an actual, uh, retargeting campaign that allows them to be able to do the multi-channel lead nurturing as well. So when you get the email in the inbox, your prospect is getting the email in the inbox. They're also getting, a series of ads that match that same messaging that they just saw in the email that they got. Right. And, if you really kind of think about it, retargeting is sort of like, it's really just better or augmented lead nurturing. Right. And so, we all do lead nurturing with drip campaigns, right? We all do that because we know it works and we know it's a best practice. And, we know that it keeps brands and your offer and, your value proposition, the messaging to your audience top of mind. And, you're doing that to be able to bring them further into, developing a little bit of a relationship with them and nurturing them up so that they are warmer when you want to bring to your sales team, or you want to close them. Retargeting really sort of does the exact same thing as email, but outside of the inbox, right? And so you're able to sort of get, more bang for your buck, when you pair them up like that.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, it comes back. There's so much content out there today that you want to make sure you're driving true value for these folks, right?
Hmm.
And so that's only going to happen if you know exactly what their pain points are. And Jimmy, as you mentioned, where they are in their buying journey, right?
Yep.
And so this is really important to keep in mind, and you can execute on that really well if you segment your audiences properly and deliver the right content piece, right? Through the form of an ad or an email, whatever, or a landing page. And so
Yep.
when we use that guide as an example, well, there's something there that they can do as far as action steps or action items to bring to that call that you schedule with them, right? Like a little checklist guide that you have them fill out. And then again,
Yep.
create some sort of value during that call that's specific to that guide that they downloaded and took some action.
I, I,
I'm really go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's exactly right. And one of the things that I would, when I talk to advertisers, yeah, marketers all the time, and one of the things that I see is, they're so focused on UTM tracking, so focused on UTM tracking by the click, right? And they sort of forget, that some of their best quality leads, their best quality opportunities are further up funnel or not trackable by a UTM, right? And so if you think about like some of our own campaigns, for example, like one of the things that we are doing is, we're running LinkedIn ads to content that we're really excited about because we know that that content is going to actually help, people who are in our ICP, right? And so we want to be able to, with advertisers that we're talking with, some of the better performing campaigns are really influence based, right? And that's a tough sell when you're talking to a CFO, right? When you're trying to get budget. I totally get it. But at the same time, if you go and you talk to your CFO about getting additional budget, or the CEO or whoever controls the budget, uh, and you're trying to come up with ways to be able to derive true demand, one of the ways that you do that is actually when you're seeing like upper funnel type of activity. So not every my point being is not everything is measurable by UTM. It's not. You're missing out on tremendous opportunity if you're just looking at UTM based tracking. Um, UTMs are important. It's a really good indicator, but you're missing out, if you're not truly looking sort of upper funnel and you're seeing what is driving demand. If you think about it, like the message that you're putting in front of your audience is if it's the right message and it resonates well, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to come from the last click, right? So you want to be able to have something that is truly holistic, right? You can't, people. I'm sure everybody on my team is sort of sick of me saying this, but you cannot optimize in a vacuum, right? You have to have sort of a holistic view of what's going on with your marketing activities and how those things contribute to demand overall, even if you can't deliver it or track it by a UTM.
This call is about landing pages, but what you hear us talking about, anyone who's listening, is that the overarching strategy is so much more important than a landing page.
Yep.
If you're not thinking through your customer and digging into like, what are they really looking for and how am I going to deliver value to them, which has, the you part of it is so secondary. It's really all about them and how do you learn more about them and what they truly want. If I bring this back to, if I bring this back to a heron, what they really want is that, is freedom. They're wanting to not have to rely on finances and planning and all the stuff that they don't know. And like, how are you going to then, so one of the greatest things I ever heard was you cannot create demand. You can only channel demand that's already there. The demand that's already there in this niche is they want to be financially free and they want to have freedom to do whatever they want in their life. Like, so how do I allow them to be free to make their own choices on what they do with their time, with their family, with their finances, whatever, so they don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. I think everybody wants that, but especially in this 50-ish age group that they're trying to target. So you need to really talk about all those things that they can't do now that they really want to do. And that becomes part of your overarching messaging. And then you're saying, okay, how do I get an ad that probably doesn't even feel much like an ad anymore? It feels like something where you're trying to self-identify with them. How do I speak in a way they're like, oh my gosh, this guy totally gets me. Like, I also want to spend more time with my kids and not have to worry about finances after age 55 or 65 or whatever it's going to be.
Yep.
So like, speaking in those terms is totally different than an ad that says, I'll make this up, one of your competitors, Fisher Investments, there's X, Y, and Z. We have all this planning and all these guides and all these whatever. But instead, I really want to hear like, you're going to have more time, you're going to have more money, you're going to have less stress, and you're going to be able to have the freedom that you desperately desire. So I'll leave it at that.